Once upon a time there was a young boy named Tommy who lived in a small village at the edge of a deep, dark forest. Tommy was adventurous and headstrong, often wandering into the forest even though his mother warned him it could be dangerous. One sunny day Tommy decided to explore deeper into the woods than he ever had before. The trees were taller here and they grew so close together that they blocked out most of the sunlight. Strange sounds echoed around him, cracks of breaking twigs, wind whistling eerily through the leaves, and distant animal calls. But Tommy felt no fear. As he walked further, the trees began to thin and he stumbled into a sunny clearing. In the clearing grew all manner of extraordinary plants and fungi. Red toadstools spotted with white polka dots stood nearly as tall as Tommy himself. Tiny blue flowers that chimed like bells sprouted up between patches of grass studded with jewels instead of dewdrops. A nearby pond glowed an iridescent purple and bubbles floated up from its depths. Delighted, Tommy raced around the clearing exploring every inch. He tasted a juice pink berry from a nearby bush and it was sweeter than candy. The beautiful plants and the warm sunshine soon made Tommy feel sleepy. He lay down in the soft grass and shut his eyes, just for a quick nap. When he woke, the clearing was dark. The sun had set and a huge, pale full moon shone overhead. The strange plants now glowed with an eerie luminescence. Tommy heard faint laughter and voices. He crept towards the sound and discovered a fairy village nestled amongst the roots of the great trees at the edge of the clearing. Dim lights glimmered from tiny windows and doors carved into the roots and trunks. In the village center stood a fountain carved of moonstone and crystal that sprayed silvery water into the air. Tommy rubbed his eyes in wonder. He had stumbled upon a fairy village. Excited, he ran into the village, darting from door to door, eager for a closer look. But the mushroom houses were all dark and empty. Eventually Tommy came across a fairy festival underway in a neighborhood on the village outskirts. Hundreds of fairies flew through the air or sat at long tables covered in strange glowing foods and drinks. The fairies were small, no bigger than Tommy's hand, and they had gossamer insect wings in all colors of the rainbow. Tommy gaped in awe. The fairies noticed the intruder and a hush fell over the festival. The fairies stared suspiciously at the human boy who had seemingly appeared from nowhere. From the crowd of fairies stepped a tall regal fairy with huge rainbow wings. She wore a crown of woven twigs and butterflies and carried a scepter topped with a glowing stone. "How did you find this place, human?" demanded the fairy queen. Her guards hovered around her, pointing their spears fashioned from thorns at Tommy. "I'm sorry," Tommy cried. "I was exploring the woods and I fell asleep in the clearing. I didn't mean to intrude, Your Majesty. Please don't hurt me." The fairy queen's stern expression softened. "You are just a lost child," she said. "We will help you find your way home. But you must vow never to speak of what you have seen here to any other humans." Tommy eagerly agreed. He was desperate to get back to his village before his mother worried. The fairy queen summoned a squadron of scouts. "Fly with this human boy back to the edge of the forest," she instructed them. "Make sure he finds his way home." Tommy could barely contain his excitement as a dozen fairies surrounded him and lifted him into the air. Their wings beat in a rapid blur as they carried him over the strange fairy village and back into the dark forest. Glowing dots of fairy light illuminated the way as the fairies flew Tommy swiftly between the trees. He felt the cool night air rush past him and laughed gleefully. After some time, the trees began to thin. Tommy saw the twinkling lights of his village up ahead. The fairies set him down gently at the forest edge. "Thank you," Tommy said to the fairies. "I won't tell anyone your secret." "See that you don't," said one of the fairies with a wink. Then they disappeared in a twinkling back into the darkened forest. Tommy ran the rest of the way home. His mother cried out in shock when she saw him. "Where have you been?" "I've been worried sick," she exclaimed. "I got a bit lost in the forest," Tommy said. "But some new friends helped me find my way back." His mother shook her head. "No more exploring in the forest alone," she declared. Tommy promised her he wouldn't. But that night as he lay in bed, Tommy smiled to himself. He would always remember his magical encounter in the fairy village. Even if he couldn't share the story with anyone else, it would remain a secret treasure in his heart forever.